I counted the hands. Then I counted the signatures. The numbers didn't match, and everyone noticed at the same time. The conference room went quiet. Not the comfortable silence of agreement, but the sharp kind that follows exposure. 14 people sat around that table. I'd counted them when I walked in, the way I always count things. 14 bodies, 14 chairs, 14 name placards reflecting the overhead lights. Rick Sanderson stood at the head of the table, holding the restructuring document like it was a proclamation. He'd been my supervisor for 6 years, good at presentations, bad at details. That's why they paired us. I handled logistics, he handled optics. As you can see, Rick continued, his voice steady but his fingers white-knuckling the paper, the transition plan has full departmental support. I leaned forward slightly, not aggressive, just interested. Can I see the signature page? Rick hesitated, just a fraction of a second, but I caught it. So did Linda Park, sitting 3 seats down. Her eyes flicked between us. Of course. Rick slid the document across the polished wood. Everything's in order. I counted the signatures. 9. I'd counted 14 hands raised when Rick asked for unanimous support 10 minutes earlier. 14 arms, 14 affirmations, 14 voices saying yes to removing me from project oversight and reassigning my access. 9 signatures. The math didn't work. I didn't say anything immediately. I've learned that silence makes people nervous. I set the document down, aligned it perfectly with the edge of the table, and looked up at Rick. 9 signatures, I said. My voice came out flat, factual. 14 people voted yes. Rick's face stayed professional, but a muscle twitched near his left eye. Some members participated remotely. Digital signatures will be added to the final version. Which members? We'll have the complete documentation by end of day. I nodded slowly. Around the table, people shifted in their seats. Tom Brennan cleared his throat. Jessica Wu looked at her phone. Nobody made eye contact with me. So the decision wasn't unanimous, I said. Not yet. Oh, the decision is final, Rick said, and there was an edge in his voice now. Your reassignment begins Monday. This meeting is to ensure a smooth transition. I sat back in my chair. The leather creaked. Outside the floor-to-ceiling windows, the city spread out under December clouds. Office buildings lit up like advent calendars. We were on the 14th floor. I'd worked in this building for 12 years. Who initiated the review? I asked. Rick shuffled papers. That's not relevant to... It's on page 3, I interrupted. Section 2B, initiating party. More silence. Rick flipped to page 3, scanned it, and his jaw tightened. The name on that line was my son's, Michael Brennan. Same last name as Tom, no relation. Michael worked in corporate development, 2 floors up. He joined the company 3 years ago, right after getting his MBA. Smart kid, confident, good with people, good with presentations, bad at covering his tracks. Michael submitted the formal request, Rick said carefully, but the decision involved multiple stakeholders, including you. Including appropriate leadership? I stood up. Not fast, not threatening. Just stood, collected my notepad and pen, and pushed my chair in. The whole room watched me. I'll need access to the raw documentation, I said. Personnel files, timeline of the review process, communication logs. That's not appropriate. I have clearance for internal documentation related to my employment status. HR Policy 7.3. I looked at Rick directly. Unless my clearance has already been revoked. Rick's silence was answer enough. Monday, he said finally, after the transition. I nodded and walked out. The hallway was empty. My footsteps echoed on the tile, steady and even. I took the stairs instead of the elevator, 14 floors down, counting each landing. At the ground level, I pushed through the glass doors into cold air that smelled like exhaust and approaching snow. My car was in the parking garage across the street. I walked slowly, not because I was upset, anger is inefficient, but because I was thinking. Michael had initiated this. My son had filed paperwork to remove me from my own project, and he'd gotten 13 other people to agree. The parking garage was concrete and shadows. Level 3, Section B, Space 47. I'd parked in the same spot for 8 years. Muscle memory guided me past the support pillars and the cars that cost more than my annual salary. My car was a gray sedan, 7 years old, clean. I unlocked it and sat in the driver's seat without starting the engine. I thought about the meeting, the raised hands, the signatures, the careful phrasing Rick used. Transition plan. Reassignment. Never termination, never firing. They were moving me sideways, not out, keeping me close but powerless. Why? I pulled out my phone and opened my calendar, scrolled back through the past 6 months, looking at meeting invitations, project timelines, deadlines. There, October 15th, a meeting I hadn't been invited to. Strategic planning session, core team only. I checked the attendee list through the corporate system, 14 people, the same 14 who'd been in today's meeting. I kept scrolling, another meeting in September. Resource allocation review, 12 attendees, 10 of whom had been at today's meeting, August. Operational efficiency discussion, 16 attendees, all 14 from today included. They'd been meeting without me for months. My phone buzzed. Text message from Michael. Hey Dad, can we talk? Want to grab dinner tonight? I stared at the message. Dinner. Casual. Like he hadn't just orchestrated my professional humiliation. I typed back, sure. Antonio's at 7. Antonio's was a family place. Red sauce and checkered tablecloths where we used to go when Michael was in high school. Neutral ground. Public enough that he'd have to be careful with his words. I started the car and drove home. The house was 20 minutes outside the city, in a neighborhood built in the 70s. Trees older than the buildings, lawns that actually had grass. I'd bought it when Michael was 2, back when his mother was still alive. I parked in the driveway and sat for a moment, looking at the front door. Blue paint, slightly faded. Brass numbers, 2847, catching the afternoon light. Inside, the house was quiet. I dropped my keys in the bowl on the entry table and walked through to the kitchen, made coffee, drank it standing at the counter, looking out the window at the backyard where Michael used to play. 17 years since Susan died. Breast cancer, fast and brutal. She'd been gone before Michael graduated elementary school. I'd raised him alone, worked full-time, managed everything, and he'd just signed paperwork to sideline me. I checked my watch. 3 hours until dinner. I went upstairs to my office. A converted bedroom, desk facing the window, filing cabinets along one wall. I kept hard copies of important documents here, organized by date and category. Employment records, insurance policies, tax returns, project documentation. I pulled the drawer labeled Work Current and spread the files across the desk. Project Phoenix. That's what they'd removed me from. A logistics overhaul for the entire East Coast distribution network. I'd designed it, pitched it, staffed it. 18 months of planning, 6 months of implementation. 3 weeks from completion, I looked at the timeline. Final review scheduled for January 7th. Completion bonus payable upon successful audit. They'd removed me 3 weeks before I'd have finished. I sat down and started reading through my own notes. Dates, decisions, approvals, every major choice documented, every expenditure justified. I ran clean projects. No waste, no shortcuts, and no reason to remove me unless they wanted someone else to get credit, or unless completion required something I wouldn't approve. I pulled up the current budget allocation on my laptop, logged into the corporate system, my credentials still worked, apparently the access revocation hadn't processed yet, and downloaded every file related to Phoenix. Then I started comparing. Original budget, $4.2 million. Current budget, $4.2 million. Original completion date, January 7th. Current completion date, January 7th. Original staffing plan, 12 people, myself as lead. Current staffing plan, 14 people, Michael as lead. I read that line 3 times. Michael was my replacement. My son, who'd worked here 3 years, who had an MBA but 0 logistics experience, was taking over a project I'd spent 18 months building. I closed the laptop and sat in the dark office, watching the sun set through the window. At 6:30, I changed clothes, jeans, a sweater, casual. Drove back into the city in rush hour traffic, radio off, thinking. Antonio's was crowded when I arrived. Friday night, families and couples, the smell of garlic and tomato sauce. Michael was already there, sitting in a booth near the back. He stood when he saw me, smiled. Hey, Dad. Michael. We shook hands. His grip was firm, confident. He'd gotten taller than me at some point, filled out through the shoulders. Looked like his mother, same dark hair, same sharp eyes. We sat down. The waiter brought water, took our orders. Michael got chicken parmesan, I got spaghetti, same thing we always ordered. Thanks for meeting me, Michael said. I know today was difficult. Difficult, I repeated. The timing wasn't ideal. I wanted to talk to you before the meeting, but Rick thought it would be better to present it as a unified decision. Unified, I said. Unanimous. Michael shifted slightly. Look, this isn't personal. It's business. The board wants to accelerate Phoenix, bring in some fresh perspectives. Fresh perspectives, I said, keeping my voice neutral. like yours. I've been working on optimization models. There are efficiencies we can capture if we adjust the implementation timeline. The timeline is set. We're 3 weeks out, which is why we need to move now. Michael leaned forward, earnest. Dad, you built something great, but you're too close to it. You can't see where we can streamline. I drank water. The glass was cold, condensation on my fingers. Who else is on the new team? I asked. Most of the same people. Tom's still handling vendor relations. Jessica's on procurement. We added 2 analysts from corporate development. And your wife. Michael hesitated. Vanessa has supply chain experience. She has a marketing degree. She's been consulting on logistics projects for 2 years. I nodded slowly. Vanessa. Michael had married her 14 months ago, a small ceremony because she preferred intimate gatherings. I'd met her 3 times before the wedding, polite, professional, always smiling. So you, Vanessa, and 2 analysts, I said. That's the fresh perspective. Dad, and you initiated the review. Your name is on the documentation. Michael sat back. The smile was gone now. I saw an opportunity. I took it. That's how you taught me to operate. I taught you to operate with integrity. This is integrity. Phoenix deserves the best leadership. No offense, but you've been coasting for 6 months. Everyone sees it. The food arrived. Steam rising from plates, cheese bubbling. I picked up my fork. What happens January 7th? I asked. Final review, same as planned. If everything checks out, we complete on schedule. And the bonus? Michael cut into his chicken. Distributed among the completion team. Which no longer includes me. You'll still be with the company. Different role, same pay grade. It's not a demotion. Just a reassignment. Exactly. I ate slowly. The spaghetti was good, sauce the way I remembered. We used to come here every Friday when Michael was in high school. Tradition, father and son, talking about his week, his friends, his plans. Now he was explaining why he'd removed me from my own project. Who voted against it? I asked. Michael looked up. What? In the meeting. 14 people, 9 signatures. Who didn't sign? That's not... 5 people didn't sign, Michael. Who were they? He set his fork down carefully. The decision was unanimous. The signatures weren't. We stared at each other across the table. In the background, families laughed. Silverware clinked. Someone's phone rang. You should let this go, Michael said quietly. Accept the reassignment. Do good work in your new role. Fighting this just makes you look difficult. I don't care how I look. You should. Difficult people don't last long. I put cash on the table, enough to cover both meals and tip. Thanks for dinner, I said, and stood up. Dad. I walked out. Cold air hit me, sharp after the warm restaurant. I got in my car and sat with the engine running, heat blasting. Michael had threatened me. Not overtly, not explicitly, but the message was clear. Accept this or face consequences. I drove home through dark streets, passing houses with Christmas lights, inflatable snowmen, plastic reindeer, decorations everywhere, festive and bright. I didn't have decorations. Haven't since Susan died. At home, I went back to my office, pulled up the signature page from the meeting, studied the 9 names, Rick Sanderson, Tom Brennan, Jessica Wu, Linda Park, Kevin Marshall, Diane Foster, Anthony Rodriguez. I stopped. Rodriguez. The document said Rodriguez, but there was no Rodriguez at the meeting. I pulled up the attendance roster. 14 names, no Rodriguez. I cross-referenced with the corporate directory. Anthony Rodriguez worked in legal. Hadn't attended the meeting, but his signature was on the document. I checked the other 8 names. All present at the meeting except Rodriguez. 8 signatures from attendees. 1 from someone who wasn't there. I leaned back in my chair, thinking. Rick had said digital signatures would be added later, but Rodriguez's signature was already there, pre-printed on the document. Not digital, physical, which meant the document had been prepared before the meeting, which meant the unanimous vote had been theater. I opened a new document on my laptop and started writing. Dates, names, signatures, discrepancies. Every detail organized chronologically. At midnight, I was still working. At 2 a.m., I'd built a timeline that showed 3 months of planning, 14 co-conspirators, and 1 target. Me, but I still didn't know why. I saved the document, encrypted it, backed it up to 3 locations. Then I went to bed and didn't sleep. While you're here, hit the hype button, don't forget to subscribe and support this channel with a like. And tell us below. Have you ever faced something like this? Saturday morning, I drove to the office. The building was mostly empty on weekends, just security and the occasional ambitious employee. I badged in through the main entrance, nodded at the guard. Pete worked weekends for 10 years, drank his coffee black, and took the elevator to 14. The floor was silent. Emergency lighting cast everything in pale green. My shoes squeaked on the tile. I went to my desk first. They hadn't cleaned it out yet. Photos of Michael at various ages, a coffee mug Susan gave me, a desk calendar still showing December. I opened the drawers systematically, pens, notepads, a stapler. Nothing personal except the photos. I took those and left everything else. Then I went to the server room. My credentials still worked. The door clicked open, cool air washing out. Rows of machines humming, lights blinking, the smell of electronics and recycled air. I logged into my workstation and started downloading. Project Phoenix files, email archives, meeting notes. Everything I had access to copied to an encrypted drive. It took 40 minutes. While the files transferred, I walked the floor. Stopped at Michael's desk, guest desk really, he didn't have a permanent station yet, and looked at what he'd left out. A notebook, closed, a framed photo of him and Vanessa at their wedding, both smiling. A motivational poster about teamwork. I opened the notebook. The first page had a list. Phoenix transition, action items, secure leadership approval. Done, dated October 10th. Build coalition, done, dated October 22nd. Draft documentation, done, dated November 3rd. Present to Dad, dated December 15th. Yesterday's meeting. The list continued. Complete review by January 7th. Allocate completion bonus. Secure next project lead. And at the bottom, underlined, ensure clean separation. No access, no questions. I took a photo of the page with my phone, kept flipping through the notebook. Meeting notes, mostly, names, dates, brief summaries. October 15th. Full team on board. Rodriguez will handle legal cover. Park has concerns, but won't oppose. Linda Park. She'd looked uncomfortable at yesterday's meeting. November 8th. V suggests accelerating timeline. Could cut Dad out before Thanksgiving. Too risky. Wait for holiday window. V. Vanessa. I photographed every page, then put the notebook back exactly where I'd found it. My download finished. I unplugged the drive, cleared my session logs, and left. Pete was reading a magazine when I walked past security. Have a good weekend, he said. You too. At home, I spread everything across my desk. Files, photos, notes, started building a clearer picture. The conspiracy had started in early October. Michael had approached Rick first. That was in an email I'd found, dated October 3rd. Subject line, Phoenix leadership opportunity. Rick had brought in Tom and Jessica. They'd recruited others. 14 people total, all with something to gain. Rodriguez provided legal language that made the reassignment look procedural. Linda Park had hesitated, but ultimately signed, and Vanessa had been involved from the beginning. I found an email chain from late October, Vanessa to Michael. Your father won't accept this quietly. We need to move before he starts asking questions. Michael's response, he trusts me. We'll present it as a career opportunity, Vanessa. He's not stupid, Michael. No, but he's proud. He won't make a scene. I read that exchange 3 times. My phone rang. Michael, I answered. Yeah. Hey, Dad, listen, about last night, I was too harsh. This transition is hard for everyone. Is it? I want you to know that I respect everything you built. Phoenix wouldn't exist without you. But it'll complete without me. Silence on the line. Then, I'm trying to make this easier. Don't. Dad, I don't need you to make this easier. I need you to be honest. More silence. I could hear him breathing, could picture him in his apartment, probably sitting on the couch, probably frustrated. I was honest, Michael said finally. At dinner. This is business. No, I said. This is personal. You wanted my project. You took it. I earned it. By going around me. By building a coalition while I was working 80-hour weeks to finish on time. You're being paranoid, I almost laughed. I found your notebook. The silence this time was different, sharper. You went through my desk? You left it out. Action items, timeline, notes about cutting me out. That was planning documentation, strategy. It was a betrayal roadmap. Jesus Christ, Dad. This is exactly why we had to move. You can't separate personal from professional. Says the man who put his wife on my project team. Michael's voice went cold. Vanessa is qualified. Vanessa told you I wouldn't accept this quietly. She was right. I heard him exhale. You need to let this go. Or what? Or you'll make yourself look worse. The reassignment is done. Fighting it just proves you can't adapt. I'm not fighting the reassignment, I said. I'm documenting the process. For what? I haven't decided yet. I hung up, spent the rest of Saturday organizing files, built spreadsheets, timelines, relationship maps, every email, every meeting, every decision point, all connected. By evening, I had something clear. This wasn't just about Project Phoenix. The project completion would trigger the bonus. $600,000 split among the team. With 14 people on the original team, that was roughly $40,000 each. With me removed and only key contributors receiving shares, the split would be closer to $75,000 each. Money. That's simple. My son had orchestrated my removal to increase his bonus by $35,000. I sat back in my chair, looking at the numbers. $35,000. Susan's hospital bills had been more than that. I'd paid them by selling our second car, liquidating savings, taking a second mortgage. Michael had been 12 years old, didn't know about the bills, didn't know how close we'd come to losing everything. I'd protected him from that. Worked overtime, took every project, climbed the ladder, and he'd sold me out for $35,000. My phone buzzed. Text from a number I didn't recognize. Mr. Brennan, this is Linda Park. Can we talk? Not on company systems. I stared at the message. Linda Park, who'd looked uncomfortable at the meeting, who'd signed the document but had concerns. I typed back, when? Her response came fast. Tomorrow morning, there's a coffee shop on Riverside near the park, the Perch. 9 a.m.? I'll be there. I spent the rest of the night preparing. Printed key documents, highlighted relevant sections, organized questions. If Linda was willing to talk, she was either feeling guilty or looking for a deal. Either way, she had information I needed. Sunday morning was gray and cold. The Perch was a small place, exposed brick and mismatched furniture, the kind of spot that served expensive coffee with foam art. I arrived 15 minutes early and sat in the back corner, facing the door. Linda showed up at exactly 9. She looked different outside the office. Jeans, a sweater, no makeup. Younger somehow, or maybe just less polished. She ordered tea and joined me. Thanks for coming, she said. I nodded. She wrapped her hands around the cup, not drinking. I need to say something first. I'm not trying to undermine anyone. I'm not looking to cause trouble. Okay. But what happened Friday wasn't right. I waited. Linda took a breath. I didn't know Michael was your son until October. I'd seen him around, knew he was in corporate development, but I didn't make the connection. When he pitched the leadership transition, he presented it as a performance issue. Performance issue. He said you'd been missing deadlines, making errors, that the project was at risk. Was I? No. I checked after the first meeting. Every milestone hit on schedule, every deliverable clean. I asked Tom about it, and he said the concerns were softer metrics. Leadership style, team morale, adaptability. Things that are hard to measure. Things that are easy to fabricate. Linda finally took a sip of tea. I brought it up in the second planning meeting. Said I didn't see evidence of performance problems. Michael said you were good at covering, that the issues were subtle. And everyone accepted that. Everyone wanted to accept it. The bonus reallocation was already on the table. Bigger shares for fewer people. She looked at me directly. You know how that works? Wave money around, people stop asking questions. You signed the document. I did. She didn't look away. I told myself it was already decided, that my signature wouldn't change anything, that I needed to be a team player. But I counted the people in that room Friday, and I counted the signatures. And when you called it out, when everyone realized the numbers didn't match, I felt sick. I pulled out my printed timeline and set it on the table. Rodriguez wasn't at the meeting. Linda looked at the document. No, he wasn't. But his signature is there. Rick had him sign off in advance. Legal approval for the restructure language. Why wasn't he at the meeting? I don't know. Linda traced the signature with one finger. That bothered me too. A legal signature on a document, but no legal presence at the discussion. What else bothered you? She was quiet for a moment, then pulled out her phone. Showed me a screenshot of an email. From Vanessa to the core planning group, dated November 20th. Make sure the old man doesn't have time to organize a defense. Holiday meeting means limited response time, and most people will be mentally checked out. Old man. She called me that throughout the planning, Linda said quietly. Never your name. Always the old man, or the father, or the previous lead. Michael let her. Michael encouraged her. He'd talk about how you taught him to be strategic, how you'd always told him to find opportunities. He framed this whole thing as him following your example. I felt something cold settle in my chest. Not anger, colder than that. "What do you need from me?" Linda asked. "I'll testify if it comes to that. I'll document what I know. I should have spoken up sooner. I don't need testimony. I need information." I pulled out a notepad. "The 5 people who didn't sign. Besides Rodriguez, who were they?" Linda thought. "Kevin Marshall was there, but didn't sign. He asked about the digital signature process, and Rick said it would be handled Monday. Diane Foster signed during the meeting, but she wasn't on the original document. So the document was prepared with 9 signatures, presented to 14 people. Right, and Michael prepared it." Linda nodded. "He drafted everything. Rick just presented it." I made notes. "What happens January 7th? Final review. We present completion metrics to the board. If everything checks out, the project closes and bonuses pay out within 2 weeks. Michael's running that review." "Michael and Vanessa. They've been working on the presentation for weeks." I looked up. "Before I was removed?" "Before you were removed," Linda confirmed. "The completion presentation was drafted in early November. They knew they were going to replace you before Thanksgiving." I sat back. The coffee shop hummed around us. Other conversations, espresso machine hissing, music playing low. "Linda," I said, "why are you telling me this?" She met my eyes. "Because I have a daughter. She's 6. And if she grows up to treat me the way your son treated you, I want someone to tell me I deserved better." We sat in silence. Then Linda stood, pulled on her jacket. "I'll send you everything I have. Emails, meeting notes, drafts. Use it however you need. They'll know it came from you." "Good." She picked up her tea. "I'm done pretending I'm okay with this." She left. I sat alone in the corner, looking at my notes. Linda would send files. I'd have internal documentation of the planning, evidence of the timeline, the manipulation, the premeditation. But evidence for what? I wasn't going to sue, wasn't going to file a complaint with HR. That would take months, involve lawyers, become a public mess. And Michael would call me difficult, bitter, unable to adapt? No, this required something else. I drove home and spent the afternoon reading through the files Linda sent. Emails, meeting minutes, draft presentations. Everything confirmed what I already knew. Michael had been planning this since early October. He'd recruited allies, drafted documentation, built consensus, all while I was working to finish the project on time. And Vanessa had been with him every step. I found a text exchange between them from November. Michael to Vanessa. "Dad asked about year-end planning today. Didn't suspect anything." Vanessa's response. "Told you, he trusts you too much. Makes this easy." Michael. "Still feels weird." Vanessa. "It's business. He'd do the same if positions were reversed." I read that line several times. He'd do the same. Would I? If I'd seen an opportunity to advance by removing Michael, would I have taken it? No. But Michael thought I would. He'd convinced himself this was acceptable because he believed I'd taught him to operate this way. Maybe I had. I told him to look for opportunities, to be strategic, to understand that business isn't personal. But I'd also told him to have integrity, to value relationships, to remember that reputation takes years to build and seconds to destroy. He'd heard the first part, ignored the second. I closed the laptop and went downstairs. Made dinner, pasta, simple. Ate standing at the counter. Watched the sun set through the kitchen window. My phone rang. Michael again. I let it go to voicemail. Listened to the message. "Dad, I know you're upset. I get it, but you're making this harder than it needs to be. Call me back, please." I deleted the message, went back upstairs and started planning. The first week after resignation was quiet. I didn't leave the house much, spent days in my office organizing documentation. Everything I'd gathered over the past 2 weeks, emails, contracts, timelines, financial records, all cataloged and cross-referenced. Linda called twice to check on me. I told her I was fine, just processing. Michael called once. I didn't answer. Vanessa texted, "Michael is struggling. The vendors aren't responding to his outreach. Can you help?" I deleted the message. By the following Monday, I'd built a comprehensive file on Project Phoenix. Every decision point, every financial allocation, every personnel change, the complete history of how my son had stolen my project, and I still didn't know what to do with it. Going to the board would take months and achieve nothing. They'd already approved the transition. Legal action would be expensive and public. HR had already chosen sides. The traditional paths were closed, so I started thinking non-traditionally. Tuesday morning, I drove to the industrial district where Coastal Transport operated. Found Greg Foster in his office, a cramped space that smelled like diesel and old coffee. "Mr. Brennan," he said, standing. "Didn't expect to see you." "Do you have a few minutes?" "Sure. Coffee? Please?" We sat in his office, styrofoam cups steaming. Outside the window, trucks moved through the lot, drivers checking loads, mechanics working on engines. "How's the Phoenix transition going?" I asked. Greg grimaced. "Not great. Your son's been calling, trying to build rapport, but he doesn't understand our operation. Asked if we could add 15% capacity without rate adjustment." "That's not possible." "No, I told him that. He said he'd get back to me with options." "Has he?" "Not yet." I drank coffee. It was terrible, burned and bitter. "Greg, can I ask you a question?" "Go ahead." "If I started a consulting business focused on logistics optimization, would you consider working with me?" Greg leaned back in his chair. "Independent of your old company?" "Completely independent." "What kind of work are you thinking?" "Route optimization, capacity planning, vendor coordination, the kind of support I provided on Phoenix." "For us specifically, or for multiple clients?" "Multiple clients, but you'd be first." Greg was quiet, thinking. "We could use help. Our current routing isn't efficient, and we don't have the expertise in-house to improve it." "What if I could reduce your operational costs by 10%? "I'd pay you 15% of the savings." We shook hands. Over the next week, I had similar conversations with Summit Warehousing and Apex Logistics. All three companies agreed to consulting contracts. Nothing that interfered with Phoenix, I was careful about that, but ongoing work that would start after January 7th, after Phoenix was supposed to complete. By Thursday, I had 3 clients and a business plan. Friday, I registered an LLC, Brennan Logistics Consulting, filed paperwork, opened a business bank account, built a simple website, and waited. January 7th arrived. I didn't go to the office, didn't call anyone. I just sat in my home office, watching the clock. The final review meeting was scheduled for 2 p.m. Michael would present completion metrics to the board. If everything checked out, the project would close and bonuses would pay out within 2 weeks. Antonio's looked the same. Red checkered tablecloths, garlic smell, photos of Italy on the walls. I arrived at 11:50 and took a booth in the back. Michael showed up at noon exactly. He looked different. Thinner, lines around his eyes, hair slightly disheveled. The polish was gone. He sat down without shaking hands. "Thanks for coming," he said. "You asked." The waiter brought water. We ordered. Spaghetti for me, chicken parmesan for him, same as always. Michael drank water, not looking at me. "I've been thinking a lot, about what happened, about what I did." I waited. I convinced myself it was business, that removing you was strategic, that you'd understand eventually. But it wasn't business, it was personal. I wanted to prove I could succeed without your help, and the only way I could think to do that was to remove you entirely. "So you did." "So I did." He looked up. "And it destroyed everything. The project failed. My marriage is falling apart. My reputation is shot. Everyone at the company knows I orchestrated your removal and then couldn't deliver." "Yes." "I lost your respect. That's the worst part." I drank water. Outside the window, people walked past. Normal day, normal lives. "Michael," I said carefully, "do you understand why I didn't help you?" "Because I betrayed you." "No, I mean, yes, but that's not the whole reason." He frowned. "Then what?" "Because you needed to learn the consequences of your actions. You orchestrated my removal, convinced yourself it was justified, and then expected me to fix it when things went wrong. That's not how reality works." "I know that now." "Do you? Because you're here asking for something." Michael looked confused. "I'm here to apologize." "Are you? Or are you here hoping that apologizing will fix our relationship so you can rebuild your career with my help?" He opened his mouth, closed it. "I don't know." "That's honest, at least." The food arrived, steam rising, cheese bubbling. We ate in silence for a while. "Dad," Michael said eventually, "I know I can't undo what I did. I know I destroyed your trust, but I want to try to rebuild it, if that's possible. It might be possible, but it's not happening quickly." "I understand." "And it's not happening while you're still trying to advance your career on my reputation." Michael set his fork down. "What does that mean?" "It means I've built a consulting business. 8 clients, all former Phoenix vendors. All people who worked with me, not with the company." "I heard? And you're struggling at work. Different department, supporting roles, no advancement path." "Yes. So you're here, at least partly, hoping I'll help you professionally." Michael looked at me. Is that so wrong? It's predictable. Would you help me? I finished my spaghetti, drank water, thought about the question. Would I help him? Could I help him without enabling the same behavior that got us here? I don't know, I said finally. Ask me again in 6 months. 6 months. Yeah, if you can rebuild your career independently without my intervention, then we'll talk. But if you're still floundering, still looking for me to save you, then nothing's changed. Michael nodded slowly. That's fair. We finished eating. The conversation stayed surface level after that. Work, weather, nothing deep. He paid the bill. Outside we stood in the parking lot. Cold February air, gray sky. 6 months, Michael said. 6 months. We shook hands. He walked to his car, got in, drove away. I stood in the parking lot for a while, watching traffic. Then I went home. March passed. April, May. My business grew. 10 clients, 12, 15. I heard from Linda occasionally. Michael was still at the company, still in a supporting role, working hard, keeping his head down. Vanessa filed for divorce in April. I didn't reach out. June arrived, almost 6 months since our lunch. Michael called. Hey, Dad. Michael. It's been 6 months. Can we talk? Have you rebuilt your career? He laughed. Not bitter, just tired. No, I'm still in the same role. Still doing supporting work. So nothing's changed. That's not true. I've changed. I understand now what you were trying to teach me. Which is that shortcuts have consequences, that burning bridges destroys more than relationships. Good lessons. Yeah. Silence on the line. Dad, Michael said quietly, I'm not calling for help. I'm calling because I miss you. I closed my eyes. I miss you too. Can we have dinner, just to talk? No business, no favors. Antonio's? Somewhere else, somewhere new. Okay. We met at a place downtown, modern Italian, different from Antonio's. Talked for 2 hours about nothing important. His apartment, my business, the weather, sports. It was comfortable, almost normal. We started meeting monthly after that. July, August, September. The conversations got deeper. He told me about the divorce, about his struggles at work, about the loneliness. I told him about building the business, about the satisfaction of working independently, about the freedom of not reporting to anyone. October arrived. 1 year since he'd initiated my removal. We met for dinner and he brought it up. It's been a year, he said. Yeah. I keep thinking about that meeting, the one where everyone voted unanimously. What about it? You counted the hands, then counted the signatures, and you didn't say anything right away? No. Why not? I thought about it. Because I wanted to see if anyone else would notice. And they did. Eventually. Michael was quiet. I think about that a lot. How you stayed calm while everything was falling apart. Nothing was falling apart yet. That came later. You know what I mean. I did. Dad, Michael said, I learned something this year. What's that? That you were right. About integrity, about relationships, about the consequences of betrayal. I destroyed everything trying to prove I didn't need you. And now? Now I know I do need you. Not professionally. I need to rebuild that on my own. But personally, I need my father. I reached across the table and squeezed his shoulder. You have him. Michael's eyes got wet. Thank you. We sat in that restaurant, father and son, trying to rebuild what had been broken. It would take time, but we had time. November came, the holidays approaching again. I got an invitation to the company holiday party, probably automatic, sent to all former employees. I didn't go, but Michael did, and he called me afterward. You should have seen it, he said. Rick's been reassigned. The board cleaned house after Phoenix collapsed. Good. And Vanessa showed up. With someone new, a guy from her new company. How'd that feel? Weird, but okay, I'm over it. Good. Dad, I was thinking. Yeah? Next year, maybe we could have Thanksgiving together, here, at my place, or at yours. I'd like that. Really? Really. We hung up. I sat in my office looking at old photos of Michael. Different ages, different smiles. And I thought about the meeting, the unanimous decision, the mismatched numbers, the moment everything changed. That moment had destroyed my career at the company, but it had also freed me. Let me build something new, something mine. And it had taught Michael a lesson he wouldn't forget. December arrived. 1 year since the meeting. I was driving home from a client meeting when my phone rang. Linda. "Hey," I said. "Hey, do you have a minute?" "Sure." "I wanted to tell you something. The company just announced final Phoenix completion." "Finally?" "Yeah. Took them a year, but they got there." "Who finished it?" "A task force. No bonuses, no recognition. Just closed it out." "All that work for nothing?" "Pretty much." I was quiet. "There's something else," Linda said. "What?" "Michael submitted his resignation this morning." I almost swerved. "What?" "He's leaving. Gave 2 weeks' notice." "Did he say why?" "He said he's starting his own consulting business, logistics and operations. He wants to build something independently." I pulled into a parking lot and stopped the car. "When did he decide this?" "I don't know, but he seemed confident, said he'd learned from the best." I sat in the car, engine idling. Michael was leaving, starting his own business, following my example. I called him. "Hey, Dad," he answered. "Linda told me." "Yeah, I was going to call you tonight. Why didn't you tell me you were planning this?" "Because I needed to do it on my own, make the decision independently." "Michael, I'm not competing with you. Different client base, different services, but I wanted to build something that's mine." "I understand." "Do you?" "Yes, I'm proud of you." Silence. Then, "Really?" "Really," he exhaled. "Thank you." "Do you need any help getting started?" "Maybe eventually, but I want to try it alone first." "Smart." We talked for an hour. He'd been planning this for months, saved money, researched the market, built a business plan, done everything right, learned the lessons I'd tried to teach. December 15th arrived, exactly 1 year since the meeting. I woke up thinking about it. The conference room, the raised hands, the signatures, the moment I'd counted and realized the numbers didn't match. That moment had changed everything. I spent the morning working, afternoon with clients, evening at home, and at 7 p.m. my doorbell rang. I opened it. Michael stood there, holding 2 bags from Antonio's. "Hey, Dad," he said. "Thought we could have dinner. Anniversary of sorts." Anniversary. 1 year since the meeting that changed everything. I stepped aside. He came in, we went to the kitchen, unpacked the food, spaghetti, chicken parmesan, breadsticks. We ate at the kitchen table, same table we'd eaten at when he was growing up. "You know what I realized," Michael said. "What?" "That meeting was the best thing that ever happened to me." I looked up. "How do you figure?" "Because it showed me who I was becoming. Someone who'd betray family for advancement. Someone who'd rationalize cruelty as strategy." "And now?" "Now I'm trying to be better." We finished eating, cleaned up together, washing dishes side by side. "Dad," Michael said, drying a plate. "Thank you." "For what?" "For not helping me when I asked. For making me face consequences. For being patient while I figured things out." I turned off the water and looked at him. "You're welcome. I know I can't undo what I did." "No. But I can try to be the person you raised me to be. That's all I ever wanted." We stood in the kitchen, father and son, a year after everything fell apart, and it felt like maybe, possibly, we were finding our way back. Michael left around 9. We hugged at the door, longer than usual. "See you next week?" he asked. "See you next week." He walked to his car, waved, drove away. I closed the door and went to my office. Looked at the timeline I'd built a year ago. All the documentation, all the evidence, all the proof of what had happened. I'd never used it, never filed complaints, never pursued legal action. Because the revenge wasn't in destroying Michael's career. It was in watching him destroy it himself, then rebuild it the right way. That was more satisfying than any lawsuit. I deleted the files, all of them. Timeline, emails, documents, started fresh. Outside, snow began to fall. January arrived. New year, new possibilities. Michael's business launched officially. Small operation, just him and a rented office space, but legitimate. He'd even hired someone to build a professional website. We met for coffee, and he showed me on his phone. Brennan Operations Consulting, with his photo, credentials, testimonials from former colleagues. "Looks good," I said. "Thanks. I've got 3 client meetings this week." "Nervous?" "Terrified." "Good. Fear keeps you sharp." He smiled. "That's what you used to tell me before school presentations." "Did it work?" "Usually." We talked about business strategy, client relations, pricing models. I gave advice when he asked, stayed quiet when he didn't. He was learning, making small mistakes, correcting them quickly, growing. February brought challenges. One of his potential clients went with a competitor. Another wanted to negotiate terms Michael couldn't accept. He called frustrated. "It's harder than I thought," he admitted. It always is. How did you handle it? The rejection, the uncertainty, one day at a time, one client at a time. Did you ever want to quit? Every week. What stopped you? I thought about it. Stubbornness mostly, and knowing I couldn't go back. Because they'd fired you. Because I'd moved on. Michael was quiet. I could go back. They'd rehire me if I asked. I know. But I won't. Why not? Because you're right. I need to prove I can do this independently. Not for you, for myself. Then you will. He landed 2 clients by the end of February. Small contracts, but legitimate work. His confidence grew. March was better. 4 clients, steady income. He moved to a larger office space, hired a part-time assistant. We met for dinner and he was different, more relaxed, more focused. The desperation was gone. I think I'm going to make it, he said. I know you will. How do you know? Because you're doing it right this time, building relationships, delivering quality work, earning trust. Like you taught me. Like you should have been doing all along. He nodded. I wish I'd figured this out sooner. Before I hurt you. You figured it out when you were ready. That's generous. It's honest. People change when they're ready, not when others want them to. We finished dinner and walked outside. Spring air, cool but not cold, stars visible between city lights. Dad, Michael said, there's something I want to tell you. Okay. I've been seeing a therapist since November. Good. We talk about what happened, about my choices, about why I thought betraying you was acceptable. What have you learned? That I was competing with you in my head. Everything you accomplished, I felt like I needed to exceed. And when I couldn't do it legitimately, I took shortcuts. Shortcuts like removing me from Phoenix. Exactly. He looked at me. The therapist asked why I needed to compete with you at all, why I couldn't just build my own path. What did you say? I didn't have an answer. We walked in silence for a block. Michael, I said, I never wanted you to exceed me. I wanted you to be you. I know that now. Good. April brought unexpected news. The company called me, Rick specifically. Mr. Brennan, he said when I answered, this is Rick Sanderson. I remember. I wanted to reach out about a potential opportunity. I'm not interested in returning. This isn't about returning. It's about consulting. The board has approved bringing in external advisors for our logistics division. Your name came up. I almost laughed. My name. You've built an impressive consulting practice. 8 months, 15 clients, excellent reputation. How do you know that? I asked around. And the board wants to hire me. They want to explore the possibility. No commitments, just a conversation. What happened to the concerns about interference and sabotage? Rick was quiet. Those concerns were overstated. In hindsight, overstated. Yes. Rick, let me be clear. I'm not interested in working with your company again. Not as a consultant, not as an employee, not in any capacity. Can I ask why? Because you forced me out. You stood there in that conference room and presented a unanimous decision that wasn't unanimous. You let Michael orchestrate my removal and then tried to fire me when I didn't leave quietly. I understand your frustration, but nothing. I've moved on. You should too. I hung up, told Michael about it that night. He was surprised. They want to hire you? Apparently. Are you going to do it? No. Why not? It's good money, guaranteed work. Because some bridges should stay burned. Michael nodded slowly. I get that. May came. My business hit 20 clients. I hired 2 people to help with operations. Michael's business reached 6 clients. He was profitable, sustainable. We met for dinner to celebrate. To independence, I said, raising a glass. To second chances, Michael replied. We drank. Dad, can I ask you something? Sure. Do you forgive me? I set my glass down. For what specifically? All of it. The planning, the betrayal, the removal, everything. I thought carefully. I'm not angry anymore, if that's what you're asking. But do you forgive me? Michael, forgiveness isn't a switch. It's a process. I'm working through it. But you don't forgive me yet. I'm getting there. He looked down at his plate. How long will it take? I don't know, but asking about it doesn't speed it up. Fair. We ate in silence for a while. For what it's worth, Michael said eventually, I forgive myself, or I'm trying to. That's important. The therapist says I need to accept that I made mistakes without letting them define me. Smart therapist. Yeah. June arrived. Summer heat, long days. Michael called. Dad, I have a problem. What kind? One of my clients wants to expand our contract. Double the scope, triple the fees. That's good news. Except I can't handle it alone. I'd need help. Hire someone. I can't afford full-time staff yet, but I could afford a subcontractor. I knew where this was going. Michael, I know what you're going to say, but hear me out. This isn't about family. This is business. You're the best logistics consultant I know. The client specifically asked for someone with your experience level. Did you tell them I'm your father? Yes. They don't care. They want quality work. I thought about it. Working with Michael, even as a subcontractor, meant interacting regularly, meant rebuilding trust actively, not just passively, meant risk. What's the project? I asked. Distribution network optimization for a regional retailer, 6-month engagement, possibility of extension. Who's the client? Anderson Retail Group. I knew them. Good company, ethical leadership. Send me the scope document, I said. I'll review it. You'll consider it? I'll consider it. He sent the document that afternoon. I read it carefully. Legitimate project, clear objectives, fair compensation. I called him back. I'll do it, but under specific conditions. Name them. First, we maintain professional boundaries. No family discussions during work time. Second, you're the lead consultant. I'm supporting. Third, if our working relationship damages our personal relationship, we stop immediately. Agreed. And fourth, you don't use this to avoid hiring permanent staff. This is temporary until you can afford employees. Understood. We started working together in July. It was strange at first, sitting in the same conference room, presenting to clients, collaborating on strategy. We'd done this before at the company, but that was different. Then, I was his superior. Now we were peers, equals. The first week was awkward. We were too formal, too careful. The second week was better. We fell into a rhythm. By the third week, it felt natural. The client was happy. We delivered quality work, met deadlines, exceeded expectations. And Michael was professional. Never overstepped, never tried to take credit for my contributions, never blurred personal and professional boundaries. He'd learned. August brought a surprise. Vanessa called me. Mr. Brennan, she said, this is Vanessa. I know. I wanted to talk to you about something. I'm not interested in... Please, just 5 minutes. I sighed. Fine. I owe you an apology. For everything that happened with Phoenix, I encouraged Michael to remove you. I told him it was strategic. I was wrong. Yes, you were. I've been thinking about it a lot. Since the divorce, since everything fell apart. And I realize now that I pushed Michael to do something that destroyed his relationship with you. Why are you telling me this? Because I feel guilty, and because Michael's different now. Better. And I think that's partly because you gave him space to grow. I didn't know what to say. Anyway, Vanessa continued, I wanted you to know that I'm sorry for my role in what happened. Thank you. That's it? What else do you want me to say? I don't know. I guess I hoped you'd... I don't know. Tell me it's okay? It's not okay, but I appreciate the apology. Fair enough. She hung up. I told Michael about it later. She called you? Yeah. What did she want? To apologize? Michael looked surprised. Surprised? Yeah. Vanessa doesn't apologize. People change. I guess so. We kept working. The Anderson project wrapped up in October. The client asked us to continue on a retainer basis. Michael was thrilled. This changes everything. With this retainer, I can hire full-time staff. Good. Thank you for taking this project, for trusting me enough to work together. You earned it. November arrived. 2 years since the meeting. We met for dinner at Antonio's, full circle again. 2 years, Michael said. 2 years. I keep thinking about what you said that day, at the meeting, when you counted the hands and the signatures. What about it? You didn't get angry? You just pointed out the discrepancy. Getting angry wouldn't have changed anything. But it exposed everything. Everyone realized at the same moment that something was wrong. Yeah, that's brilliant, Dad. Understated, but devastating. I smiled. Thanks. I try to do that now, in my business. When something's wrong, I point it out calmly. Let people realize the implications themselves. Does it work? Usually. We ate. The food was good, the atmosphere comfortable. Dad, Michael said, I want to ask you something. Go ahead. Will you come to Thanksgiving? At my place. I'm cooking. You cook now? I'm learning. It won't be great, but it'll be edible. I thought about it. Thanksgiving together. First time in years. Okay, I said. Really? Really. Thanksgiving was nice. Michael's cooking was better than expected. Turkey slightly dry, but seasoned well. Sides decent. We ate at his apartment, small space but clean, talked about everything and nothing. It felt like family. December arrived. 2 years and 2 weeks since the meeting. I was working in my office when Michael called. Hey, Dad, can you come to my office? There's something I want to show you. When? Now, if you can. I drove to his office. He'd moved to a better building, professional space with a view of downtown. He met me in the lobby, led me upstairs. Okay, he said, opening his office door. Close your eyes. Michael, please, just close your eyes. I closed them. He guided me inside, positioned me carefully. Okay. Open. I opened my eyes. His office wall was covered with photos, projects, clients, achievements, and in the center, a framed photo of the two of us from last Thanksgiving. I wanted you to see this, Michael said. Everything I built because you taught me how. Not the shortcuts, not the manipulation, the real lessons, integrity, relationships, patience. I looked at the wall, at the photos, the accomplishments, the evidence of his growth. I'm proud of you, I said. I'm proud of me too, he smiled. And I couldn't have done it without you, not just your advice, your example. Michael, I know we can't undo the past. I know I hurt you, but I want you to know that I'm different now, better, because you gave me the chance to fail and learn from it. I pulled him into a hug. He hugged back, tight. I forgive you, I said. He pulled back, eyes wet. Really? Really? We stood in his office, father and son, 2 years after everything fell apart, and it felt like maybe we'd finally healed. There's one more thing, Michael said. I want to expand the business, hire 3 full-time consultants, build something bigger. That's ambitious. I know, and I want you to be a partner. I stared at him. What? Not an employee. A partner. Equal ownership, equal say. We build this together. Michael, I have my own business. I know, and it's great, but imagine what we could do together. Combined client base, combined expertise. We'd be the best logistics consulting firm in the region. You've thought about this. For months. I walked to the window, looked out at the city, thought about the proposal, working with Michael full-time, building something together, risking the relationship we just rebuilt, but also creating something neither of us could build alone. I need to think about it, I said. Take your time. I spent a week considering, talked to my existing clients, reviewed finances, consulted with my staff, and I realized something. I'd built my business to prove I could succeed independently. To show Michael that you don't need shortcuts, don't need betrayal, I'd proven that. Now I could build something new, something collaborative, something better. I called Michael. I'm in, I said. Really? Really, but I have conditions. Name them. We formalize everything. Legal partnership agreement, clear roles, conflict resolution procedures. No assumptions, no family dynamics affecting business decisions. Agreed. And we're equals, not father and son. Partners. Equals, Michael confirmed. We met with attorneys in January, drafted partnership agreements, formalized the business structure, merged our client bases. By February, Brennan & Brennan Logistics Consulting was official. We hired 4 consultants, leased a larger office, built a comprehensive service offering, and it worked. We landed major clients, healthcare systems, retail chains, manufacturing operations, projects we couldn't have won individually. March brought our biggest opportunity yet. The company, Michael's former employer, my former employer, requested a proposal. Rick called me. Mr. Brennan, I know you said you weren't interested, but the board specifically requested you and your firm. For what? Complete logistics division overhaul, 2-year engagement, significant budget. I looked at Michael across our shared office. He was watching, curious. Send us the RFP, I said. We'll review it. Rick did. The project was massive. Everything we'd wanted to do with Phoenix expanded across the entire company. Michael and I reviewed it together. This is huge, he said. Yes. It's also karma. They forced you out. Now they need you. They need us. Do we want it? I thought about the question. Did we want to work with the company that had betrayed us both? Only if we do it on our terms, I said. We drafted a proposal, comprehensive, professional, expensive, included provisions for complete operational control, final decision authority, and terms that protected us from the kind of interference we'd experienced before. We submitted it in April. The board accepted it in May. We started work in June. It was strange being back in that building. Same lobby, same elevators, same conference rooms, but different now. We weren't employees. We were consultants. Outside experts, brought in specifically because of our expertise. Rick was professional, if awkward. He reported to us now, effectively. The first few weeks were tense. Old employees, old dynamics, old memories. But we delivered results. Optimized operations, reduced costs, improved efficiency. By August, the company's logistics division was outperforming projections by 15%. The board was thrilled. September brought a surprise meeting. Robert Grant, the board member who challenged Michael 2 years ago, requested dinner. We met at an upscale restaurant downtown. "Gentlemen," Robert said, "I wanted to thank you personally." "For what?" I asked. "For taking on this project despite your history with the company, and for delivering exceptional results?" "Just doing our job." "It's more than that." Robert looked at Michael. "Young man, 2 years ago you failed spectacularly on Project Phoenix. Do you remember?" "Yes, sir," Michael said quietly. "I was the one who called for your removal. I thought you were incompetent." "I was." "No, you were inexperienced. There's a difference." Michael looked up. "Watching you work now," Robert continued, "seeing how you operate with your father, how you handle challenges, you've grown tremendously." "Thank you." "That growth is impressive. Most people don't learn from failure. They make excuses, blame others. You owned it and improved." We finished dinner. Robert picked up the check. "One more thing," he said as we left. "The board is discussing bringing your firm on permanently. Retainer basis, ongoing optimization." "We'll consider it," I said. "Good. We'd be fortunate to keep you." October arrived. 3 years since the meeting. Michael and I were working late in our office. Everyone else had gone home. "Dad," Michael said, looking up from his laptop. "Yeah?" "I was thinking about the meeting 3 years ago." "Okay. Do you remember what you did when you noticed the numbers didn't match?" I pointed it out. Calmly, precisely. You didn't accuse anyone. You just stated facts. "Right. That's the moment everything changed. For you, for me, for everyone in that room." I set down my pen. "What are you getting at?" "I'm getting at the fact that you could have exploded. Could have accused me publicly, embarrassed me, destroyed me. That wouldn't have helped anything." "Exactly. You chose the strategic approach. Expose the problem, let people draw conclusions." "Michael, I do that now. When I notice discrepancies, when clients make mistakes, I point it out calmly. Let them figure out implications." "Is that working?" "Better than anger ever did." We worked in silence for a while. "Dad," Michael said eventually. "Thank you." "For what?" "For teaching me how to be better, not through lectures, through example." I nodded. "You're welcome." November came, Thanksgiving again. This time we hosted together. My house, Michael cooking, 10 guests including Linda Park and some of our consultants. Family and colleagues blurred together. It was good. December arrived. 3 years and 2 weeks since the meeting. Our firm landed the biggest contract yet. State Transportation Department, 5-year engagement. We celebrated at the office. Champagne, toasts, genuine happiness. Michael pulled me aside. "We did it," he said. "We did. Together. Together." He raised his glass. To counting." I laughed. "To counting. To counting hands. To counting signatures. To noticing when numbers don't match." I raised my glass. "To counting." We drank. And in that moment, everything felt right.